Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the CEO Mindset Podcast. I am so glad you are here today. I know that you could be anywhere else, but you chose to listen to my podcast. And for that, I am forever and eternally grateful. Listen, on this podcast, I talk about how to leverage your personal brand to get the things that you want. In order to develop that personal brand, I am sharing with you tips, tricks, and techniques to help you constantly evolve so that you are open to those failures that will help you get that much closer to your success. I believe that it is in understanding yourself and what you need to do and be your best, you are more capable of getting where it is you want to go because you'll communicate better. You will work well with others. You will have more confidence. You will understand your value and how to wield it in the world. So on this podcast, that's what I'm sharing with you, how to leverage it to constantly evolve and be open to those failures. Now, in this episode, I want to share with you some of the things that were just on my mind. I just am compelled to share them with you. We are closer to the end of the year. And because of that, a lot of us are starting to think about what we need to do, how we need to adjust our businesses for the coming year so that we can scale or we can grow or we can start even. And so I think this episode is going to be very helpful if you are in that space. If you're like me, you started thinking about this, back in August, September timeframe, and you're starting to shape your ideas and starting to think about how you're going to make those adjustments. But I think in the lessons that I've learned over the years and fairly recently, in those lessons, I think you'll find some lessons that might be helpful to you on your journey to scale, grow, or just learn. Okay. So let's get started with the first one that I think might surprise you. And that is validation can actually be detrimental to your success. Now, I want to explain this from a personal perspective. For me, early on, as a kid, I've always wanted to be validated because I think I'm not trying to throw shade on my parents or anything, but there just was not a lot of emotional support that happened. And if I'm being honest with you, I would say that I believe my husband and I were actually having this conversation yesterday on a walk with someone. And it came up, we met him, we crossed paths with one of our neighbors, and we were having a conversation about our kids. And we were talking about, the idea of financial support and emotional support. And I made the comment that I believe it is so much more important to have emotional support than it is to have financial support because of this very reason. When you don't have emotional support from your family, from your friends, from people around you, sometimes it's very easy to crave validation because you're not getting that unconditional emotional support that oftentimes comes with your family, your parents, or really good friends or a spouse. And so when we rely so heavily on validation, what happens is we start doing things to get that validation. We make moves to impress versus making moves for growth. We start listening to people who are giving us advice, but it's not always the best advice because it goes against what we are so passionate about doing. But because we care so much about being validated by other people, we allow those opinions to trump our own desires and passions and perspectives that are going to get us to the success that we're looking for. The things that occur when we are in need of other people's validation is sometimes there's self-doubt created because someone's telling us something opposite of what we feel and we have burning on the inside of us. But because we crave them saying, job well done, we start finding ourselves making moves that we think would get that job well done. Sometimes imposter syndrome is the result of the need for validation because we'll start to believe that we're not enough because we're not satisfying the people that we want to validate us. Another thing that could happen is we start comparing ourselves to other people because we see success in others. We value that person's opinion. We crave their validation. So we tend to make moves based on that need or that desire. So that's what I mean by if there's a need to be validated, that can be detrimental to your success. Now, what I suggest in opposite that is to really tap into your value and what you're bringing to the table and own it. And this is not something that you do overnight, but I go through this with you and help you with this step by step inside my program, Project CEO, because I know what it feels like. The epiphany journey that I took to get to this point is one that has been so familiar when I'm working with my clients. And it's just been amazing to see how the various steps in my journey have been so helpful in helping my clients achieve success as well. But when you really do the work to understand where that negative tape is coming from, and you begin to give that back to that person or release yourself from those negative things, it does leave room for you to really identify who you truly are and understand the values and perspectives that you yourself authentically and organically believe and crave and support and foster and fertilize. When you get to that point, it does make it a lot easier for you to make moves without needing validation. I'm not saying that validation is not, good and that you you will turn it away when it happens, but you won't depend so much on it because you'll be very solidly rooted in the value that you're bringing to the table. When you're doing the work to water that value, that interest, that passion, you'll be very confident in what it is you're bringing to the table. And so when those people around you aren't giving you the validation that you think you deserve, it's okay because you'll be getting it from other places and you'll be giving it to yourself because you know that you are a value add to the situations that you place yourself in. So that would be my suggestion. And in addition to that, it's going to minimize that self-doubt. Quite the opposite, you'll build confidence. The imposter syndrome will be minimized because you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt the value that you're bringing to the table. And you begin to look at people from a place of, I know I have something to help you. I'm going to offer it to you, but if you don't get it, if you don't want it, that's fine. It's your loss, because you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're bringing something to the table. And so you don't have to feel like an imposter because you can stand firmly on the value that you're bringing to the table. And then you'll realize that there's no comparison. Nobody can compare to you. I've said this on so many podcasts and videos. You are as unique as a snowflake or a fingerprint. No one has the exact same combination of influence, experience, perspective, and passion. When you tap into that, doing the work, and again, I walk you through this process inside Project CEO, your eyes are open to the fact that even if people are doing the same thing as you, serving the same audience as you, you're doing it in a different way. And someone is going to connect with you based on the way you're doing it. And so there won't be any competition. And as a matter of fact, you may even feel confident enough to collaborate with people who are in the same space as you, because you know that you will capture the hearts and win the minds of people who like it the way you're giving it. So again, I just want you to just take note, just realize that validation can be detrimental to your success. And before I even go any further, if you haven't already, take out pen and paper and take some notes because you don't want to lose the thought that comes to you when you hear this. You want to make sure you capture the thoughts because that's what's going to help you retain the information and subsequently apply it to the things that are going on in your life. So be sure to jot these notes down. If anything that I'm saying is resonating with you, it's going to help you in the long run. Now, another lesson that I learned that I really think will be valuable to you, and it's a part of maturity. It's a part of being a mature entrepreneur, and owning that title. Sometimes we get into business and because we enjoy doing something, it was a hobby that we want to monetize, and we fail to transition into business owner. And we continue to treat our business as if it's a hobby. So we don't take it as seriously as we should. We don't demand that other people take it as seriously as they should. So this lesson is a big one, but it holds with it a lot of responsibility. And that is the buck starts and stops with you. I learned that for myself. The buck starts and stops with me. What I realized here was this year, I started to towards the end of last year, I started to take a good hard look at how I was sharing my business and services with the world, with my local community, so forth and so on. Then I began to get frustrated at the amount of effort I was putting into this one avenue that was not yielding results. I was very frustrated because I felt I was not being recognized by the people in this organization. I felt that I was putting forth a lot of effort and work, and it was not being met with any type of return. And I was a little upset and frustrated by it. And I started seeing success in other people that were in this same organization. And, I started to think that, well, maybe there is a discrimination happening, whether it's on purpose or it's not. I really did start to feel, I was in my feelings a little bit about what was happening. But what I decided to do is instead of blaming what was going on around me, I turned that thumb back toward myself and I said, you're the problem. You're the thing that needs to change because you are putting the success and failure of your business in the hands of other people when the buck starts and stops with you. So what can you do, Andrea, to turn things around and take control back so that the only person you'll be able to blame when things aren't done appropriately or you're not getting results that you want is yourself? What I started to do was observe those around me and start asking questions to understand more fully what was going on so that it wasn't my assumptions. It wasn't me having opinions. It was me learning facts and understanding what was really and truly going on. What I discovered was of the people that I talked to, I actually got a speaking engagement at another organization where some people were also a part of this initial organization that I started talking about. And I had a conversation with them. And this happened a couple of times, but I had a conversation with them. This first conversation opened my eyes to the fact that no, they really weren't interacting with each other either. They were coming for community. They were coming to build relationships, but they were not really exchanging money for services with each other quite as much as I thought they were. They were going to these other organizations where there was a little bit more at stake. And so they felt more compelled to share referrals and do business because they were a little bit more invested. And so when I looked at that, I thought, well, wow, I need to look at making some changes myself. And so the point I'm making is when I stepped out and started looking and observing what was really going on, I recognized that I myself was the one who was stagnant. I was the one who was not doing her due diligence to get out there and, get in front of the people that I needed to get in front of. And this brings me to my quiz, the stages of entrepreneurship, because I've talked about this before too. I actually have a video. I'll link it in the show notes. But this quiz, I identified 5 stages of bossing, and you take the quiz to determine what stage of bossing you are truly in. And then you will get some results, not only telling you what stage of bossing you're truly in, but who you should be serving, like who is looking to that boss for advice. Who your potential customers could be. But what I'll say is in identifying who your audience is and how you need to show up as a boss for that audience, you do need to recognize and own the responsibility that the buck starts and stops with you. And when you get that down, you will know that you are solely responsible for the success or failure of whatever it is you're doing. All right, now the last lesson that I think is just vital. If you don't take anything else away from this podcast episode, take this away. And that is, you have to bet on yourself, be your own champion, and invest in yourself. But when it came to me starting my business, I went to college before social media was around. I didn't understand how to create courses and programs. I taught myself social media. I taught myself how to create courses. I taught myself how to film and edit videos. I've taught myself how to do a myriad of things in my business. And instead of biting the bullet and investing in myself early so that I could bypass all of that hard work and take advantage of other people's experiences, I tried to bootstrap it. I tried to do it on a shoestring budget. And I know that we have a propensity to want to do that when we are trying to grow a business. But if you would just get in the mindset of investing in yourself, betting on yourself, you will be that much further along in your business. I promise you, because, it is going to do 2 things. Number 1, it's going to help you learn and grow faster. But number 2, it's going to put light of fire under you, because you're going to want to make that money back, or you are going to do what you need to do on the front end, i.e. get a job, hit the pavement to get smaller customers and work all hours of the night and day so that you can make that money and hustle so that you can get the service or the product or the help that you need to grow your business. But it's not about the other person. You've got to bet on yourself. You cannot look at other people to do it for you. And you have to show up proud of the work that you've accomplished. And you have to be so invested and committed to your business that you will bet on yourself. And when the time comes to spend the money or do the thing that is going to get you to the next level, you are going to be willing to do it, because it's not about the other person. It's about you. You are betting on yourself and you are investing in yourself. All right, guys, that does it for today's episode. I just had these few little lessons that I just was compelled to share with you today. I think it's going to be very helpful as you start planning out your new year, as you start strategizing about how you are going to scale. I think these lessons are going to be very helpful. If you've not done the work to understand your value, what you need to do and be your best, remember my program, Project CEO, is very helpful in getting you there so that you're not so reliant on that validation, and it's not going to be a detriment to your abilities to succeed in the new year. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching this episode of the CEO Mindset Podcast here on YouTube. As you know, I try my best to get 3 videos up a week. We do the podcast on Tuesdays. We do my regular tips and techniques for how to leverage your personal brand in your leadership and your marketing on here on Thursdays. And then on Sundays, I'll give you some fun, free behind the scenes vlogs happening. So please subscribe, share this video with your friends so that they too can strategize and prepare for the coming year, and leave a comment below and tell me what are some of the lessons you learned this year. Like I said, I think some of my lessons are going to be helpful to you, but I bet some of your lessons will be helpful to me and the rest of us watching this video. All right. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the CEO Mindset Podcast video. I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.